Welcome back to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Thursday of April 7th, the grand opening of RSC Equipment. The ribbon cutting will take place at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the place is located at 854 Magnolia Avenue. On Friday, April 8th of this week, I'll attend the Nova Mocidad for their spring fling and the first annual Tomato Awards at the Portuguese Instructive Social Club. This event will honor Assemblywoman Annette Quiano, the Honorable Consul of the country of Portugal, Maria Avia Paiva of the Embassy, and Anthony Marciengo from the Sonic Drive-In. On Sunday, April 10th at 1 o'clock, I'll attend and present a commendation to the Eagle Scout Court of Honor dinner. This year, they will honor the newest Eagle Scout, Mr. Steven Gonçalves. The dinner will be held at the Portuguese Instructive Social Club. For more information, call 296-9775. And just a reminder that now until April 25th, there will be collection boxes in all of the Elizabeth firehouses to collect canned goods, rice, instant potatoes, soups, and anything else that the food pantry of the Elizabeth, New Jersey Greater Area Salvation Army will be the beneficiary. Feel free to bring your food donations to the firehouse at 411 Irvington Avenue or any firehouse in your neighborhood. For more information, please call the Fire Union Credit Union at 351-7770. If you need more information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 820-4124. And I'm pleased to be joined this week on this week's show by the Executive Director of the Ywca of Eastern Union County, located in the city of Elizabeth, Miss Janice Lillian. Janice, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here.
And I know you're new to the neighborhood. You've been here, a couple of years now?
I've been here a little over 2 years now.
Yeah, that's no longer new, right?
Absolutely. And I was here many years ago.
You're right, because the first time we met, we chatted about your history, and
yes,
maybe you can tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and how you wound up back here as the executive director.
Sure. I'm a social worker by background, and I've worked in a number of different fields, mental health, substance abuse. When I was here more recently was in the late 80s, working at Community Access Unlimited. Then I went on to other work, and I've come back here in 2009. My commitment has always been to the issues pertaining to women and girls, and I'm happy to be working in that field again.
Now, Janice, your education is in New Jersey, or?
No, my college degree is from Michigan, and my social work degree is from Hunter School of Social Work.
And where's the Hunter?
In New York City.
In New York City, okay. And Janice, I guess one thing hasn't changed. Sid Blanchard's still running Community Access.
He is. He is.
He was there in the late 1980s.
He was the founder of the agency.
He had the Volkswagen of his car, as
yes,
he always
yes,
the Volkswagen back of it, and he's still. The organization has grown somewhat.
Tremendously.
He's done a great job in making sure the folks and his clients have access to affordable housing and certain healthcare issues as well.
Yes, and we're actually happy to partner with him on a lot of those issues because, in fact, we provide housing as well.
Okay, and we can talk about that a little later. Tell me about the Ywca in the city of Elizabeth.
Okay, well, first I'd like to say that the Ywca is a national organization, and it's the oldest and largest multicultural women's organization in the world, in fact. It's over 150 years old and has always been mission-driven. We've always had a focus on social justice. So YWCAs, there's about between 250 and 300 of them around the country. Each of us is independent, but we're all tied to YWCA of the nation.
How does that, what do you mean you're independent but tied to the, basically use the name, is that?
We use the name, we have certain standards that we have to adhere to. The overall mission of the Ywca is that the Ywca is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but each Ywca does mission work based on the needs of its community. What makes us all the same is that we're all committed to that same mission, and so we're all working on racial justice and social justice around women's issues.
But they all don't do the same stuff throughout the country.
That's correct.
Depends on your community.
Absolutely. It depends on the community. Each YWCA identifies the needs of its community and moves in that direction. So that here in New Jersey, for example, some YWCAs do job training, some do health and fitness, some do before school, after school, or summer programs. Those, of course, are related to women's ability to go to work. And so it's empowering women.
Now, this is the Young Women's Christian Associations, correct, by the YWCA?
That's what we were originally founded as. We've shortened the name basically to YWCA. We are non-sectarian.
Non-sectarian.
Absolutely.
Now, this may sound like a silly question, but I don't know the answer. Maybe, what came first, that or the YMCA? Do you know?
Actually, I don't know.
Oh, I was curious. When you said 150 years, I'm like, wow, maybe this preceded the YMCA.
Offhand, I don't know. I know that we're 153 years old this year.
Wow, that's okay. Now, the YWCA of Eastern Union County, one of the focus in all of the work, and whenever I've been asked to go to any event, has clearly been on domestic violence, and you've been a leader in this area on education of domestic violence and making sure women understand their options, and also some men that it may. But
absolutely.
So, can you tell us why the focus on domestic violence? I mean, I understand the importance of the issue, but clearly you've kind of grabbed this issue and ran with it.
Well, the focus began in 1978, and I wasn't here then. I don't know what the issues were, but the board of directors at the time determined that that was a serious social issue in the city of Elizabeth and larger Union County, and they decided to really focus their efforts around domestic violence. And at that time, they established the first emergency shelter. Many people know it as Project Protect, and that was the first and still remains the only emergency shelter for victims of domestic violence in Union County. Since then, we've grown, and the board has always wanted to focus its efforts around domestic violence. So we offer a number of other services, but we are still the key agency providing services in that direction.
And what services does the YWCA provide for victims? What do you do?
We do almost everything, it seems. We have 3 levels of housing. We have, of course, our emergency shelter, and we can house up to 11 women and their children at any one time. And those are for women who really are in danger. They need to relocate, they need to get out of their situation. The shelter's in a confidential location, and we provide that emergency shelter, and we'll try to build them up, provide food and shelter, of course, but also counseling, case management, a lot of support, link them to jobs, link them to economic assistance, whatever they need to become independent.
Now, do some of the women come back and say thank you if their life gets straightened out? I mean, some may struggle their entire life, and you can understand that if they're a victim of domestic violence, how that could just overtake them. But some probably succeed as well. And do they come back?
Absolutely. We do see people come back. We hear about people correspond with us and say, I was helped. And many times, in fact, I'll be in the community speaking, and someone that I've never met before who is perhaps working in an establishment, or perhaps a community leader that's heard me speak will come up to me and say, I was helped by your agency many years ago. And that's, of course, the most rewarding thing, is to know that we're really helping people.
And since 1978, I mean, you weren't part of that original decision on the board. Have the services for people like you in domestic violence, has it increased?
Services have increased. I want to touch on some of the other programs that we provide as well, and that will give perhaps a framework, because we've established in the last several years 2 other levels of housing for people moving on from shelter. We have a transitional home for single women. We have supportive apartments for women and children. And those are both a second stage for women moving on from shelter who still need that extra support. And in those programs, they get case management, which is really either daily or weekly or every few days, the hand-holding and support from someone who will continue to empower them, strengthen them, link them to the services they need.
Janice, how do you make the decision whether they should be counseled every day or every week or twice a month? Is it based on their ability to rebound on their own, or their ability to grasp the? How do you make that choice?
It's done jointly with the woman herself, because our mission is empowering women. So a woman may seem very dependent, but gradually we'll set goals with her, and as she increases in independence, she may say, you know what, I don't really need to see you every day. Maybe I'm working and I don't even need to see you every week. We'll keep in touch with her, but the goal is really to make her fully independent so that she doesn't not see to need
Now,
to see someone.
so naturally, you would deal with some women who are not living in your facilities as well.
Absolutely. We provide, we have a huge legal advocacy program. We meet with women in the courthouse and provide them with information on how the legal system works, help them get restraining orders and other support that they need in the family violence issues. We do have a legal representative, an attorney who's on staff, who provides legal representation to women who can't afford a private attorney and are in fact victims of domestic violence.
Now, domestic violence in the state of New Jersey is something the legislature actually paid a lot of attention to over 20 years ago. And is it the law in New Jersey that if a domestic violence call comes into police headquarters, one of those folks have to be removed?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So in other words, they can't stay together. One has to be taken out of the house, whether arrested, which is if a police officer responds, that's the case.
We're trying to work very closely with law enforcement to make sure that the law is always enforced and that all victims are treated appropriately. And one of the programs that we also have is domestic violence response teams. That 18 of our 21 municipalities here in Union County have domestic violence response teams. And the way it works is the police department will appoint a domestic violence liaison officer. I know here in Elizabeth there is a whole domestic violence unit. But in most municipalities there's a domestic violence liaison officer who will work with a team of trained volunteers. And they will respond to a victim who calls in a complaint when she's at the police station. And they'll try to provide her with safety planning, options to help herself, legal information, all the things she needs to get resources to help herself. And we know also that women are most, and I say women, although there are in fact statistics tell us that 15% of victims are men. We do have men that we see. But a victim will respond most appropriately or most readily when she's in crisis. So we really want to increase our domestic violence response team's efforts around the county.
There's other ways people can help too. I mean, if people recognize that a friend of theirs is in a violent situation, they could call you and say, but what would you do if that was the case?
We would talk to the person. We do have a 24-hour hotline that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People call us and sometimes they're saying it's about a friend, but it's really about them. Sometimes it is in fact about a relative. We'll advise them, we'll tell them options. In the end though, the call really needs to come, the call for help needs to come from the victim herself. And we will provide services at whatever level she needs. We have counseling services for people living throughout the county. They don't have to be in one of our residential programs. We provide a lot of counseling, group and individual counseling, and many of our counseling sessions are in Spanish as well. And we work in partnership with several other community organizations throughout the county to make sure that there's access to services for women who need them.
Janice, we're going to take a short break, run some
Okay.
commercials, come back and talk more about this important issue.
Okay.
Please stay with us after these messages. We'll be back with more with Janice Lillian from the YWCA.